Matthew, the 17th chapter, beginning with verse 1. Actually, I want to back up. Now, you don't have to go there. It's not going to be on the screen. I just want to kind of set this up. Jesus, at the end of chapter 16, he said to his disciples, he said, if anyone desires to come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. Now, here's what I want to ask you tonight. How many folk do we have here in the house that say, I want to follow him? Because if you don't, this message tonight is going to not do you any good. And you might as well just go on to Dairy Queen or something like that. But if you say, look, I want to follow him. I want to take up my cross. I want to follow him. I really want to do what he says. So this is going to help all of us, because there is transition that happens. If you're taking notes, I'm just titling this The Third Day. The third day. And again, I'm just putting that as a title, so a reference for you. But beginning in Matthew, the 17th chapter, in verse 1, it says, after 6 days, Jesus took with him Peter, James, and John, the brother of James, and he led them up a high mountain by themselves. There he was transfigured before them. His face shone like sun, and his clothes became as white as light. Just then there appeared before them Moses and Elijah talking with Jesus. I don't know about you, but that would freak me out. Peter said to Jesus, Lord, it is good for us to be here. If you wish, I will put up 3 shelters, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah. While he was still speaking, a bright cloud covered them, and a voice from the cloud said, this is my son whom I love. With him I am well pleased. Listen to him. When the disciples heard this, they fell face down to the ground, terrified. And so this is a setting that Jesus is actually taking us to this private moment. This is Jesus and really with what we will call the inner circle of Jesus. He takes 3 guys with him, Peter, James, and John. Now, those are his boys. That's his, I don't know what you guys call them. I need a young person over here. It used to be your crew. I don't know, your gang, your whatever. I don't know. They change it all the time anymore. What is it? Squad. Now it's a squad. You're a squad. So let's say this is his squad. So here Jesus is, Peter, James, and John. Now, something you have to understand, and please hear me, because we said, hey, we want to follow him. We want to take up our cross. You have to understand that you cannot take masses of people with you. When you move forward in the kingdom of God, you can minister to 5,000, but you cannot take 5,000 with you. Yeah, that's good. Come on, don't miss this. You can't take everybody. In other words, everybody can't be in your business. Now, you can minister to them. I minister to a lot of people, but I have a very small circle, just me and basically my grandkids. And I'm not sure if I even trust the little one yet or not. But you can minister, don't get this wrong. We can minister to the masses, but you can take very few with you. There are many associated with you that cannot go up with you. Come on, I'm talking to some folks that say, I want to take up my cross, I want to follow him. I hear people all the time, I want to get closer to God. I'm going to tell you some things tonight that's going to help you do that. Because here's the thing, Jesus could heal the masses, but he could only take 3 with him. So he healed the people. So you've got to be selective about who you take with you when God takes you somewhere. I know y'all aren't going to run on this tonight. But you got to be careful who you take with you, because again, the circle must get smaller or you will not survive. It's kind of like a pyramid. Think about a pyramid. As a pyramid goes up, it gets smaller. If you were to flip that pyramid over, guess what? It wouldn't stand, it would fall over. And so you got to be careful. And so we have the Mount of Transfiguration. It's the Mount of Hermon in the Old Testament. And it's a mile high in the air. That's a long walk. I mean, a mile's a long walk, but they go up a mile high. Don't forget this. Here's another little tidbit of information. It gets colder at the top. I want to light up for Jesus. Okay, get ready because it gets colder at the top. At the bottom of the mountain is one climate, but all of a sudden, as you start to go higher, as they start to get to the top, it's a whole other climate. Some of y'all are missing it. When you're down at the bottom, and I don't mean the bottom saying at the bottom of the barrel, I'm just saying when you're here, it's one climate. But when you say, I want to go higher in Him, guess what? That's a whole different climate. Maybe down here, you thought, well, prayer's not that big a deal, but up here, guess what? Prayer's the key. There's some things that happen when you go higher. And so you got to be careful with who you take up to the top. You got to be careful. You cannot take flighty people up to the top with you. The kind of people that change all the time. You say, what are you talking about? I call them Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde people. You don't know what you're going to get 1 minute or the next. 1 minute, they're all on fire for Jesus and want to live for Him. The next minute, they're flipping people off and cussing them out. Come on, you can't take those kind of people. You got to say, hey, I got to be careful who's going to go to the top with me. Why? Because I have to surround myself with people that are in one mind and one accord and that are saying, you know what? I've got something on my mind, and that is to live for Jesus. And so Peter, James, and John, they have this track record with Jesus. They've been with Him. And if you value yourself, come on, please hear me tonight. If you value yourself and your journey, you will not take just anybody with you. Now, some might call you arrogant. I've had that happen. Oh, you're just arrogant. But you know what? You're not arrogant. You're just careful. Some of you got friends that you hung out with here, but you know what? As God's taking you up, He's saying, look, I'm taking you up. There's going to be some folk you're not going to be hanging out with anymore. They're going to think you're arrogant, but really it isn't arrogance. You're just being careful because you've been through so much and you don't want to make the same mistake that you always did. So you say, hey, I'm going to get a little bit higher. These guys that we're talking about, Peter, James, and John, think about it. They faced some storms with Jesus. Now, here's the thing I like in my life. I like to hang out with people who will hang with me in tough times. You know, when COVID hits and half the people aren't here. You know, when you come into the auditorium and as a pastor, I'm scratching my head and I'm saying, what in the world? And I'm looking at my wife and I'm saying, is my season done? Is God done with me? Yeah, all those thoughts were going through my mind. But I'm looking for people like you all that say, you know what? I'm going to hang out with you, not just when we're packed out, but when we've got very few. I'm just going to hang out with you, not just when I'm on a high, but when I'm in a low as well. Because here's what I found in life. Everybody wants to ride in a limo, but I need somebody who'll get with me when I'm on a bus.
Come on. So good. So good. Come on.
Now, somebody, whether it be here or on YouTube, you need to hear this. You need to start hanging around with folks. Yeah, as long as you're fired up and everything's great, they're going to run with you.
Come on.
But the minute you go through a tough time, how many of you know you're going to know who your friends are? And so you need to have an understanding. And you say, so I need to get away. Listen, hear me. I'm not saying you cannot minister to them. I'm just saying they might not be going where you're going.
Yeah.
Are we okay?
Yeah.
Jesus said, if you suffer with me, you can reign with me. So they're alone with Jesus on a mountaintop. I mean, think about that. Who wouldn't go? Who wouldn't go? I remember there was a song about this. Up on the housetop, click, click, click. Some of y'all were thinking, you know the song. Who wouldn't go with him? Who wouldn't go with Jesus? I mean, this is a place of change when you see things from a different perspective. Because when you're up there, you're looking at things different than you used to. Well, here really is the question. We say, oh, I want to go. Everybody says, I want to go. Everybody says, oh, I'd love to go with Jesus. The question is, are you ready to see what He's going to show you? Oh, I want more of God. Are you ready to see what He's going to show you? Are you ready for your circle to get smaller? Are you ready? Because you've got to be prepared. Please, if you're not taking notes, go back and listen to this. You have got to be prepared to deal with something called loneliness, because it becomes a lonely process. Pastor, I'm the only one praying. You know why? It's a lonely process. Pastor, I feel like I'm the only one worshiping. You know why? It's a lonely process. Pastor, I've went for days and nobody's called me. You know what? Join the crowd. It's a lonely process.
Come on.
It's a lonely process, and you got to be prepared for the loneliness, because God will take you places where you see on a whole different level, and your whole perspective changes, not only about the world, but just about the kingdom of God. You look at things different. You know, here's a sign that you know that you've outgrown people because of what they think. You look at people and you say, what was I thinking? I'm sure my wife looks at me like that. She probably sits across in her recliner and thinks, what was I thinking? But sometimes we do, and we think, what were we thinking? Well, you know what? And please don't misinterpret what I'm saying. On this level, that's how you were thinking. But as you say, I want to go higher in God, and as you pursue that and you start to go up, you start to see things different than you saw them before. And you say, what was I thinking? Well, you were thinking okay at that level. It's just a different level. It's just, I want to take up my cross. Pastor, I'm serious. I want to take up my cross and I want to follow Jesus. Are you ready to do that? Are you really ready to do that? Because there's going to be some folks that you're going to outgrow. That doesn't mean that they can't grow too. That just means for the moment you're going to outgrow them because you're pursuing something they're not pursuing. And so on top of the mountain, they behold the wonder of His glory. Something you have, and this is, in my terms, the refrigerator note. God cannot be explained. He must be revealed. He cannot be explained. He must be revealed. He has to be revealed to you. See, this is something that we can sing. We can preach, I can do everything, but until, as I said about Suzanne a while ago, until we make a choice that that's what we want to do, then it really doesn't matter what I say, it doesn't matter what songs they sing, because how many times, and I've done it myself in years past, how many times did I get excited and get tears in my eyes and worship and praise God because of the moment, only to walk out and within a day or two I'm changed, or not changed anymore. That wasn't the change I'm talking about. I'm talking about a lifetime of change. I'm talking about you making a choice of saying, you know what, I really do. I don't want to be a Facebook Christian. I really want to be a Christian. I really want to be Christ-like. Well, you know what? It's not cool. Hear me, younger people. It's not really cool nowadays. Don't make me get off my notes. There's some things that aren't cool. You say, well, man, that's the trend nowadays. You know what? There's some things you need to get away from. He said, you're in the world, but you're not of it. Just because it's a trend doesn't mean you have to do it. How about a trend of prayer? How about a trend of loving God? How about a trend of reading your Bible? How about that trend? Jesus was very careful who He revealed Himself to. There comes Moses, and all of Israel had stood for him, and the angels had carried his body away. That Moses, that one shows up. Elijah represents everything they were expecting. And so you have Moses, you have Jesus, you have Elijah, yesterday, today, and the future. And Peter says, hey, let's build 3 tabernacles. Let's build it around where I was, where I am, and where I'm going. Let's build that tabernacle. Hear me tonight. Faith never builds monuments around the past. Faith never builds monuments around the past. You can never be a person who walks by faith and still talks about the good old days. It doesn't hurt to talk about him. It doesn't hurt to say, I remember when. But hear me, do not use this term. Well, man, God really moved back in the day. You know what? God's moving today. We don't need to just hang on. Well, you know what? I wish God would do what God did back then. You know what? It was the position of our heart. God will do the same thing he did back then if our heart gets right and we say, hey, God, I'm about you and everything else. I just want what you want. So it's a dangerous thing. Peter's talking about building monuments. It's a dangerous thing when your faith wants to build monuments in where you used to be. And it really is equally dangerous when you build monuments around the future. Because you cannot build monuments where you aren't yet. 1 John 5, 7, and 8. Somebody must have sped the clock up because there's no way it can be 10 till 8. It says, for there are three that bear witness in heaven, the Father, the Word, and the Holy Spirit. And these three are one. And there are three that bear witness on earth, the Spirit, the water, and the blood. And these three agree as one. Find a story of Jonah. He's on his way to Nineveh. And you know the story. They shove him in and he ends up in a fish for 3 days. But all of a sudden on the third day, for some reason it was the third day the fish got sick. You say, Pastor, what are you saying? You can only hold the man of faith for so long. You can only hold the man of faith for so long. Jonah was down 3 days, but he rose on the third day. He rose on, the devil made a mistake. We celebrated the crucifixion and the resurrection. The devil made a mistake by rejoicing at the crucifixion. Devil, you should never dance on the first day because the third day's coming. You should never get excited, devil, on the first day because it's not over yet because the third day's coming. Hear me tonight. There's some folk, and whether it be here, whether it be on YouTube, God is about to raise you up. He is about to say, hey, I've been waiting for you. I know your enemies are having a party, but you know what? On the third day, finally the third day comes around and the third day happens. And some of you are right on the verse. Some of you are still in the first day. And you say, how do you know I'm on the first day? Because you're living a life that is beat down. But some of you, I can see all of a sudden the stone is being rolled away. I heard somebody before service said, man, something's just happened in the last few days. You know why? That stone's been rolled away. It's the third day. And so you say, don't count me out. Not on the first day, not on the second day, because why? The third day is coming, and that is when the stone is rolled away. Some of y'all's on your third day. You're about ready to see some things happen. You're saying, man, I really needed a breakthrough. I really need something to change in my life. Well, let me help you tonight. God told me to come and tell you, some of you are on your third day. So you got to look at your affliction and you got to say, I'm on the third day. I'm looking at this affliction of mine and I'm saying I'm on the third day. You say, it's been a while. I don't care. I'm on the third day. The stone's about to get rolled away. Something, how's it going to happen? I don't know. I believe something can happen supernaturally. I feel like that God is about to resurrect some things in this place. Something I feel like is about to happen. We got another baptism on Sunday. In fact, another baptism, second service. Somebody's getting baptized, and I'm excited about that. We had one last week, and we got others that are coming up. Why? You say, why is that happening? Because something is about to happen. Every time I thought I couldn't make it anymore, something said, you know what? Don't quit. I'm here to tell you right now, some of you have thought about throwing in the towel. Hear me right now. Don't quit. You're laying in a tomb. You're saying it's never going to happen for me, but all of a sudden you're going to see a crack of daylight that is happening, and you're going to say, what is happening here? And the stone is going to be rolled away. So you just got to hang on. You're in the third day. Don't quit now. Well, Pastor, I feel like giving up. I understand. I've been there too. But I'm telling you, the third day is coming in your life, and change is going to happen. Now, can I go a little bit deeper? Israel, I want you to come on up. And I want to go a little bit deeper. Don't check out on me. Because Israel's coming up. Don't check out. Because a lot of times that's when we put everything away. We pack our Bibles up. We pack our purses up. We think, well, we're done. But don't check out on me yet. Because to me, this next few moments is an important part of this message. We go on down to the 14th through the 20th chapter, 14 through 20, chapter 17. It says, when they came to the crowd, a man approached Jesus and knelt before him. Lord, have mercy on my son, he said. He has seizures and is suffering greatly. He often falls into the fire or into the water. I brought him to your disciples, but they could not heal him. You unbelieving and perverse generation, Jesus replied. How many of you know he wasn't being nice? How long shall I stay with you? How long shall I put up with you? Bring the boy here to me. Jesus rebuked the demon, and it came out of the boy, and he was healed at that moment. Then the disciples came to Jesus in private and asked, why couldn't we drive it out? He replied, because you have so little faith. Truly, I tell you, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you. So somebody comes running and saying, basically, hey, Jesus, your disciples couldn't deliver my son. Now I want us to notice something, and it really caught my eye as I was studying. Jesus doesn't speak to the boy. He talks to the Father. He's not talking to the boy. He's talking to the Father. The boy is on the floor. The boy is possessed, and Jesus is talking to the Father. Several years ago, it's been quite a few years ago, and some of you construction workers can vouch for this, as far as it happening in places you've probably seen. Several years ago, we had a leak in our ceiling at home. Now, here's a crazy thing about a leak in your house. It might show up here, but it really comes from over here. Very seldom will it be right where the leak is at. Where our leak was, or where it was coming through the ceiling, was not where the leak was at. It was from another place. You say, Pastor, what are you saying? Here's what I'm saying. The real leak in this story is coming from the Father. This thing with this boy started way back there somewhere. So it came from Dad. Now what's happening is the boy is acting out the Father's pain. Don't miss it. The boy's acting out the Father's pain. Now, Jesus deals with the Father's unbelief. Jesus is dealing with his unbelief. He looks at him and he says, how long am I going to have to stay with you? How long am I going to have to put up with you? He's dealing with the Father. He's talking to the Father. He's saying, hey, what's going on here? And you say, Pastor, what are you saying? Here's what I'm saying. And get this as we close. You cannot heal the Son if the Father remains broken. You can't heal the Son if the Father remains broken. Hear me tonight. Somebody needs to hear this. The man in you will not be healed, or the boy in you will not be healed until you recover. The woman in you will not be healed until the little girl recovers. No, don't miss it. See, some of you are thinking the problem is coming from here, but really it's coming from here. So what we see happening in this segment in the boy's life is coming from the man. Jensen Franklin preached an amazing message about being men. If you're a man here, you need to hear it. I'm telling you, you need to listen to it. And I'm not piggybacking on his. But here's what we see happening in the boy's life. It's coming from the man. And so in today's society, we have grown men with little boy problems.
Yeah, come on. Come on.
We got grown men with little boy problems. They're still fighting things that they were having to fight. We've got women today with little girl problems. Maybe you're here and really you say, man, Pastor, I just can't get it together for God. I just can't. Well, you know what? The leak isn't right there. The leak's over there. The leak has started somewhere else, and that's where it's manifesting itself. This is why that we say, you know what? I serve the Lord. Why? Because He is yesterday, today, and forever. In other words, He is there. He is there, and He is here. Wherever the leak is at, that's where the Lord is. And so I want us to stand tonight. And I really feel like that whether it be here, it be somebody that's going to listen to this later, you need to understand something. Nobody can heal you but God. And you say, why is that, Pastor? Because nobody can go back to where the hurt began except Him. You think it's right here, right now. You say, I'm having trouble with my kids. Look at the dad. Man, my kid is just, look at the dad. Where did the leak start? Where did it start? See, we're all the time, if we're not careful, we're trying to get over a situation and we blame somebody. We blame our friend, we blame our pastor, we blame our neighbor, we blame somebody for our issue. But you know what? Really, that's not where the leak's at. The leak's somewhere else. And so tonight, I want us to bow our heads. And I don't know who it is in here. I don't know who it is going to be listening to this on YouTube. But I want to ask you tonight, maybe you're here and you're not dealing with this, but somebody is. I want to ask you, are you man enough? Are you woman enough to admit that the real leak is coming from over there? See, because in our house, we could have just patched the stain. We could have patched the sheetrock. We could have fixed it. And you know what? The next rain came, it would reappear. See, that's what happens. We come to the altar and we fix the patch. We put a little sheetrock mud on it. we paint over it. We do that, and we're good for a little while, but guess what? After a little bit, then the leak starts happening again. And then there's the stain. And so, are you man enough, are you woman enough to admit where the real leak's coming from? You say, what are you saying, Pastor? Here's the thing, and I want you to think about this. I'm not asking you to become religious. I'm asking you to get a real relationship with Jesus Christ. See, it's not about rules and regulations, it's about relationship. As I've said for years, I never come at you with a bunch of rules and regulations. I teach you who to love. And if you fall in love with Him, then what He asks us to do out of His Word is not an issue. And so I want to ask you tonight, as every head's bowed, every eye's closed, I want to ask you tonight, you're here and you say, you know, Pastor, I want to admit, I've known it all along, or I just thought about this tonight. I thought the leak was here, but it's really somewhere else. It's really coming from my past. It's really, and if that's you, I want you to raise your hand tonight and say, you know what, that's where I see it really coming from. I really see it coming from. Now see, no hands. I see one hand. I didn't really expect to see hardly any. I see a couple hands. I didn't really expect to see many. Those of you that raise your hand, I want you to come down. We're going to pray for you. And you go, no, I've been down there 1,000,000 times. I don't care. Come on, you raise your hand. Come on. You say, why? Man, we've been down so many. Think about this. Guys, think about it. This could be your third day. This could be your third day. We got a couple men. Men, come on, help us. Help us. I didn't really expect to see an overwhelming response because you know why? We don't want to admit. And that's okay. If nothing else, this message has awoken us to the fact that, oh, wait a minute. Maybe the problem really isn't the problem. Maybe your wife isn't the problem. Maybe it's you. Maybe your husband isn't the problem. Maybe it's you. Maybe it isn't your job. Maybe it's you. Maybe it's something that happened to you and you have not let go. And I understand that, but the Lord is saying, you know what? I want you to let it go. I want you to let it go. And so I want us to take a moment. I want us to worship Israel. Lead us in worship.